John chapter 6 contains the story that is replicated in each one of the Gospels. So it's obviously important. And it's the story of the feeding of the 5,000. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is the Sea of Tiberias. Little geographical points for outsiders, you know, the local name and the empire name. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the miraculous signs he'd performed on the sick. Well, you would, wouldn't you? You imagine them in their wheelchairs and crutches, hobbling along, you know. There's a need, and if you see the need is going to be met, then you go where the need is going to be met, don't you? You go there, you go, despite whatever anybody else says, despite your doctrine, you go where the need is going to be met. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover feast was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming towards him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" I don't know why he picked Philip. It could be because he was the nearest guy to hand, or it could be because Philip was a local lad. You remember he came from Bethsaida, and that was just literally down the street. In fact, that would have been one of the villages that they would have gone into to get food for the crowd on the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. And while Philip is kind of shrugging his shoulders, the comment goes, Jesus only asked this to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. And it's good to know that where we are driven by our needs, we are driven crazy by the extent of our needs, but Jesus already has plans. Amen? God already has plans for how he's going to fix the situation. And we are just driven, the emotional urgency of our needs do not deflect the carefully prepared plans of the provider. So Philip says, I don't know, 8 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. And then another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up, "Here is a man with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" So you have the idea of Jesus being with plans and the disciples being without plans, or that their plans are, well, what's a polite word for pathetic? Low grade, inept, useless. It's like, what good is this among so many? And yet, one of the wonderful aspects of this story is that the little in the hands of Jesus is enough. That's the point of it, isn't it? The little, the pathetic offering that the disciples can bring is just useless. You know, you'd almost expect Jesus to laugh at it. And yet he takes it, and he blesses it, and he breaks it, and he gives it to the people, and it's enough. How far will they go among so many? How far will what you have to offer, how much good will it do in the face of the urgency of the need of the world? And really the answer of this story is it's enough. It's enough. It's enough that you bring your offering. It's enough that you give your offering. It's enough that you put your offering, yourself, into the life, into the hands of the King, and then trust the outcome to him. It's his business, not yours. That's right, isn't it? Ultimately. So Jesus said, let the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place, and that tells you that it was indeed Passover. It was, you know, like our Easter time, so there's lots of grass around. The rest of the time it was all sort of stony and dusty and just dry. But now, Easter time, it's green and fertile. So they sat down on the grass. Jesus takes the loaves, gave thanks, and the Greek word is Eucharisto, gave thanks. And that's just where we get the Eucharist, the word Eucharist from. And it's also where we get the concept of thanksgiving from. And he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. And he did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, nice little ecological point in this, he said, gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. So your offering to the King, your offering to your God is never wasted. Nothing that you do. Jesus said, a cup of cold water that's offered in my name will not lack its reward. 3 small loaves and a couple of fish offered in my name, broken and given, will not lack their reward. Nothing that you give to Jesus is wasted. Nothing that you do in the name of the King can be a false start or a wrong direction. Everything is wrapped into the offering of you to God and the response of God giving to you and through you. Isn't it wonderful? Nothing is wasted. After people saw the miraculous sign that Jesus did, they began to say, surely this is the prophet. Capital P, Deuteronomy 18 verse 15. One day there will come a prophet like Moses. And they're saying, surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world. And Jesus, who is really shrewd at this kind of thing, he knows what's going on in people's minds. He sees this is a mighty thing. This is an incredible event. And he knows what's going on. He says, seeing that they intended to make him king by force. So he withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Because Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is the prophet. Jesus is the one who was to come. But he will not be manipulated even by the scale of our need, even by his power to respond to our need. And when we look into the world today, you can easily become overwhelmed, can't you, by the scale of the problems. You can easily be frightened by the amount of need that shouts at you. How can we do anything? And the answer in this verse, in this story, is simply bring the little you have, put it into the hands of Jesus, and trust him for the outcome. Amen? May God bless you today.